Welcome back to the ReEducation Camp podcast. Karen O'Toole joined today by the intelligent, the loyal, the industrious Colin Miller. And well, folks, here we are. Another day, another assassination attempt on former President Donald J. Trump.
Let's say
And
president, because I'm with
let's
the
say,
Q people. I
yeah,
still think that he's been in the background the whole time, advising the
yeah,
military,
yeah.
waiting for the opportune moment. But
Where we go one, we go all. Well, I have to say, piggyback on that, I actually listened to on my way home today to record this. I listened to the address that the press conference that they gave out of from Florida about all of this from the different agencies, the sheriff's department, the Secret Service, and at some point in time they corrected themselves. They did say President Trump, and then they said Donald Trump. Like they just kind of like reference back to former president and stop referring to him as president. And I believe that was because at some point in time they needed to address what level of security he had. And they said that if he had been to go back, he was on his one of his golf courses in Florida. And
yes,
an individual who we now have a name, Ralph Wesley Routh. Yes, it's oh gosh, that's a strange name.
it is. It
It's
is
yes, yeah.
Ryan,
Ryan. Sorry,
Wesley,
I said
Ralph.
Ralph. Yeah, so Ryan Wesley Routh uh, made an attempt. There was a Secret Service agent who was protecting the perimeter, and from what they explained in the press conference, they go ahead, like another hole ahead. Of course, they explain like exactly down to every detail, like how the Secret Service operates, like just in case, hey, for the next
Yeah,
psycho, just so you know, this is how we do it. Okay. So
yeah.
they
This is where we're
apparently,
stationed.
yeah, so they go ahead, like a hole ahead or two holes ahead. And there was like a fence where he was set up, and they actually saw the barrel of the gun. And there was an exchange of fire between the Secret Service and this individual. He fled. A witness took an image of him and his Nissan with the license plate, and they were able to apprehend him. And there's actually footage that has come out where you can watch him being arrested. So they have apprehended him, and they already have so many details on him. From what I understand, just a few hours ago, his Facebook was shut down. So you cannot see his Facebook account at this time. So, I mean, Facebook could,
Why would they shut it down though? Like,
yeah, yeah,
why? What's the harm in keeping it up exactly?
yeah. And I can't imagine somebody like that would have a family member that would like know his password and shut it down. I'm thinking that's an internal, but also,
Yeah,
too, a lot of people were thinking the FBI said, shut this down, like shut it
shut
down.
it down,
So,
Zuck. Shut it down, Zuck.
yeah, and I have to say it's kind of remarkable tonight. So I was away this weekend. I like actually I don't want to say I raced home, but I pretty much like called you and was like, "Hey, we got to record because of this." Like I was kind of on the fence
And I
because it
thought
was
you
a
were calling me to cancel because like we had
no.
talked about doing a show. I'm like, all right, yeah, I guess Karen wants to cancel for tonight, whatever. But she was like, no, Colin, breaking. We must cover this. And
Emergency.
I'm like, you know what? You're right, Karen. We need to do at least like a half hour little show here and
Yeah,
talk about
yeah.
this because it's just never aren't do you feel as exhausted as I do just with this entire election cycle is just one thing after the next, and I feel like it's still an eternity away. It's September 15th right now. Like November 5th is literally forever away.
Yeah,
There is still
yeah.
so much shit that could go down between now and then that it's just overwhelming.
Oh yeah, I had a conversation with my boss this week, and we were talking about Trump. Well, the day of the assassination attempt, my boss called me, or the next morning we talked, and I said to him, It's not over. This isn't the end. This isn't the last attempt on Trump's life before now and the election day."
That reminded me of
And
that Chris Daughtry song, by the way. It's not over. You know what?
it's
You know what's fun?
but like I
Sorry.
said, it's not over. And just this week, I believe I spoke with him on Thursday and Friday, and he said to me, I don't think that that's the like I think that they're not going to stop at anything to shut him down." And I said, I absolutely agree. I remember having that conversation on July 14th. And I agree. I think I said to him, I echo that sentiment. And I do feel like there's going to be another attempt. And sure enough, Friday, Colin and I had discussed recording because, like I said, I was at a bridal shower and I called him and I said, listen, we got to record. I'm hopping on the turnpike now. I'm coming home. And as soon as I get home, we're going to jump on this call. So that's what we're doing right now. But we had talked about recording on Friday instead of Sunday is our typical recording and release day because unlike Laura Loomer, we have day jobs. So
Yeah, we
so
have to
here we
earn a
are.
living,
Yes, we have
you
to,
know.
yeah. I don't know how she earns a living, but whatever. So she's important. I'm just kidding. I really don't actually know anything about her. She was in the news this week. So
I
I
still would
decided
like to have a dinner with her because I find her interesting. And as I say to you often, has what I would
to.
refer to as the two-face syndrome. Like sometimes I'll look at her and I'll be like, okay, I wouldn't, kick that away. And then other times I'll look at her, it's like, ooh, what's
She's like
going
a
on there?
gremlin.
Yeah, it's that's the two-face syndrome that she's got going on. But yeah, she's been in the news a lot lately, being seen getting off of Trump Force One, and she made a tweet about Curry that was very controversial that Marjorie Taylor Greene commented on. It's just a whole big loomer
There has been
saga.
so much that has happened. Like we're not even going to get to talk about the debate right now because this is like the debate happened. So much has gone on in just like the last 5 days, and here we are with just another event happening. And like you said, well, I just did want to say like we were going to record on Friday, and I said to Colin, we both were just like not feeling it, and I said to him, and he can vouch for me. I said, listen, you know what? Don't worry about it. Don't feel bad that we're not recording. I said, who knows what could happen in the next 2 days? I said, for some reason, we're not recording on Friday. We're going to record on Sunday because that's the way it's going to be and it's meant to be. We're right on time. Sure enough, here we go. Another Sunday surprise, another Saturday, Sunday surprise, weekend
Well,
surprise here. And like you said, it's no longer, it used to be the October surprise. We have had a July surprise. We've had like 2 July surprises, an August surprise, now a September surprise. And like I said, it's pretty much at this point, it's as I have to say, I have to give credit to Jack Posobiec. I heard him on with Alex Jones a little bit ago. He said, we now have one candidate who has survived more assassination attempts on his life than the other candidate has even done interviews. Like, this is just unreal at this point as we head into October in the final month of the campaign.
but you
And
know what? It's
we're not
like
even heading into October. We're still got a chunk of September to live through.
by tomorrow morning, the sad thing is though, by tomorrow
Yeah.
morning,
Yeah.
this is gonna feel like it's weeks old
Yeah,
news in like hours from now. That's the sad thing. And I guarantee you this, what I refer to as the fake left. I call them the fake left because they're not anti-war anymore. They're not
yeah.
anti-corporations. They're
The
pro-war,
establishment
pro-corporations.
left.
Yeah, the establishment left. They're
And
gonna
Dick
talk about
Cheney.
how well, yeah, Dick Cheney. This is the party of Dick Cheney, and they're gonna talk about how well this wasn't really a big deal, and actually it was probably Trump's fault that it did happen. Like, remember they did that? They blamed him for like his
Oh,
own assassination.
yeah, MSNBC was already like this. So on like I said, I didn't even really get to sit down and read a lot. I was pretty much just listening to the press conference, listening to the news reports. And one of the news reports I pulled up, like click, like I was just seeing what came up on my phone and just like clicking as it went along. And MSNBC came up and it was about 2 hours after the incident took place. So I understand they didn't have a lot of information, but MSNBC, who brought you the Russian collusion hoax for like 7 years, was too afraid to say that potentially a man armed with an AK-47 who is less than 300 yards away from former President Donald Trump, who had an assassination attempt on his life within the last 65 days, they were not comfortable saying
Yeah, this
that
is
it was actually,
unconfirmed.
yes, this is
We don't know why
yeah,
he could have just been chilling. Like he could have been looking for
yeah,
somebody else.
yeah,
Probably
absolutely.
not the president, probably not President Trump really, because why,
Yeah.
you know,
They like
uh
refuse to say that this could potentially be an attack on President, I guess, but like you said, QAnon president.
Yeah, President
Trump's
Trump.
life. Yeah, because I mean, really, our sitting president has also kind of endorsed Trump this last week. We see
He's on the MAGA train.
he's on the MAGA. Yeah,
Sleepy
yeah,
Joe, he put the MAGA cap on, and did you also see he was walking up the stairs
on Air
of
Force
Air
One.
Force One
Yeah,
with this red hat? It was
this
like a
red hat.
nondescript. It was like symbolic almost.
There
Like
is no, I saw that and I said, there is no way he's not trolling the Kamala team. Like he, either somebody in his handlers put that in his hand, or like he had a moment of like clarity, knew what he was doing and was like, all right, because there's no reason he should have a red hat on, like a bright
yeah,
red. I don't know what do we actually know what that hat said though?
I think it said America First, and it had NJF on the back. No, I'm joking.
Oh, okay.
I'm
I was
joking.
like, what?
It wasn't
Yeah.
an America First Nick Fuentes
It
cap.
should. It
It
should
should have
say
been though.
that.
He should wear that.
But you're absolutely go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that can you imagine? You know that there is a seething hatred that Joe and Jill and the Biden family feel for probably definitely the Obamas. You know, since they kind of spearheaded all this, I think, and definitely for Kamala and her husband. Like Trump said during the debate, he said,
I
let
was
me let you in on a
yes,
little
yeah.
secret." He
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 hates her.
hates her,
He
and
hates her.
of course, he hates her. Why would he not hate her after what they did to him? You know?
Yeah, I was about to say, I was about to quote that too because that was my favorite. That was one of my favorite moments from the debate. And also another great part was when he told her about like he was taught. He's like, I'm speaking, because it was honestly
Yes.
like two divas like on stage. Like it was just like a cat fight. And I loved it because you know that Trump's a little bit of a drama queen. Like you got to
Oh
imagine
yeah.
somebody. Yeah, he's a
Well,
little bit of a
he's
diva.
theatrical.
So yes,
That's what
yeah.
I like
So
about him. He's very theatrical. You
yeah,
know, obviously in show business for many years.
yes,
I got my wish very early on in the debate. I'm like, please mention that they're eating cats in Ohio. Please bring that up. And what was everybody talking about at the end of that debate? All the memes, all you heard about was cats and dogs.
yeah,
And I think that kind of works in Trump's favor. He walked away with the meme of the night, the meme of the week, maybe the meme of
yeah.
the month. I mean, everywhere you go is cats and dogs.
Well, I have to say, and I did see a lot of liberal backlash from that, kind of just like joking about it and just making it. But like you said, if you're an average person, maybe you're sitting there and thinking to yourself, well, let me look up what is actually happening in Springfield, Ohio. And maybe you come for the cats and dogs and you stay for a community that has been inundated by choice, not by their choice, but it's been thrust upon them, a complete demographic and population change overnight that is destabilizing the existing population at their detriment. And I do want to say about, we really wanted to talk a little bit more about this today, but obviously the news there's developing stories going on with this assassination attempt. But I did want to say, I was shocked. I did not know this story. So my brother is, I'm pretty sure this is when he entered the military. So about 2 years ago, he, I don't know if it was from the military, but at some point in time, he was working with Haitians. I don't know if it was military or it was another job he had. And this was, like I said, 2 years ago. This was not 2 days ago. This was not 2 months ago. This was 2 years ago, before anybody was having any conversations about foreigners or people in general eating cats. He worked with some Haitians, and one of the Haitian individuals asked him, have you ever had cat? And my brother said, what do you mean? He's like, do you ever eat cat? And my brother goes, no. Like, he thought it was crazy that somebody would say it. And he told him, he quit back, that cat tastes pretty good. And this was a Haitian individual. So I was blown away by the story. I had no idea about this. So like my mom reiterated to me from my little brother. He told her this story 2 years ago. This happened 2 years ago, that
Wow.
this Haitian individual told him about, asked him about eating cat. My other brother is my older brother, my only older brother worked in Disney World years ago, the Disney program, like the college
Yes, the
program.
call. Yeah,
And
my
he
brother
told
did
me,
that too.
yeah, he told me that some of the Chinese migrants were kicked out of Disney at that time for eating the ducks. So I'm saying, like, hey, I just want to go on the record. I love ducks. So, I mean, I love eating duck. So I'm not really that upset about that.
I like
I,
a good duck too, I will
yes,
say.
yeah. And
It's
I have to,
greasy,
yeah.
it stinks up the house a little bit, but it's delicious.
And I also have to say, in defense of the geese situation, I I like to go outdoors a lot, and where I like to venture, we have a family of geese. Just one family. Usually we get a couple geese during the migration periods. But there is a family that has decided to make my community their home for the whole summer. And they leave excrement everywhere on the trail, and it's very, very distressing. And I grew up near a body of water when I was a very little kid, and we used to have geese, every these Canadian geese everywhere, and
And they're
they're
nasty too,
they're nasty.
they're mean birds.
They hiss at me, and I don't
Yeah,
even provoke them, and I'm just walking on the trail. And I was on the phone recently, like 2 weeks before this all went down, and I was like, "You know what? Like, I'm ready to come out here and shoot these geese, okay? Like, I can't stand these geese anymore. They're driving me nuts."
I wouldn't blame you.
So, when I saw that individual from Columbus, Ohio, holding the goose, I was not particularly
You
taken
were like, "I
aback.
feel you.
I feel you. Yeah,
I
I was
feel
like,
you, brother."
I'm not gonna go home and eat it, but I definitely understand how you can get a little upset. But I imagine that a lot of people are not particularly excited about the idea of cats being eaten. I think people can tolerate ducks, they can tolerate geese, but
Yeah,
cats, that's where I think you start to push people a little bit. Like you start
right,
to get a
because
little,
the cat is a spiritual animal. I mean, I look at my cat and I stare into her eyes and I see, her soul peering back into me. And cats, they're also the guardians of the underworld, which is why mummies flee from them. I don't know if you remember
the
the Mummy
movie.
from 1999 with Brendan
Yes,
Fraser.
yeah,
The
yeah.
mummy would get scared of the cat whenever the cat was in the room, and he'd have to flee because the cats they're very spiritual sentient creatures. And let me just tell you, my X feed is just so graphic. Like I opened it up the other day, and not in the following section, but in like the for you section. Like, what's the first post I see? It's this Haitian, like, with a cat, like ready to take a big bite out of it and do some sort of like satanic blood sacrifice, and the poor cat squirming around. You can hear it screaming. It's like, I don't need to see this shit. Like, why?
Yeah, yeah, and I actually, to be honest with you, the day after that, I was speaking with my mother about the debate, and I said, "I don't know about the cats, like, I don't, and I understand that people have different delicacies." And I said, I definitely saw images of the geese, but I don't know about the cats." And then she told me, like, the story my brother told her 2 years ago, and she goes,
Oh yeah.
"Oh no, I think you're actually," she goes, "I'm gonna have to push back on you about the cats." She goes, "I think people eat cat. Like, I think that that actually happens."
Do you,
But I don't think that that's a reason. I want to push back on the idea of xenophobia, though. I don't think that we should be. I think that the conversation here is to not lambaste people and say that they're hyperbolic and saying that they are alarmist or saying that they are making up stories. No, there's clearly some kind of kernel of truth here as to why people are making these accusations. And the more important accusation and the more important conversation we need to be having is go watch the reports from X, from Rumble, not from MSNBC, where they actually speak to individuals on the street
oh
and they
yeah.
tell you about it's not even so much that the geese or the cats, it's about communities that the people are being kicked out of their homes because the landlords would rather rent to 16 people that are getting funding from the government. And there are agencies that are getting federal dollars to bring in people and reshape communities. And I have no issue. I know different people have different ideas about immigration. I don't
I can tell you
necessarily
some of mine.
yes, yeah, I don't necessarily I am not against immigration. I see the merits of immigration, but unchecked immigration and a no nonsense approach, even liberals, there are plenty of liberals. I just finished Peter Turchin's book, End Times. He deals with, he wrote a book about predicting chaos, but he explains that he said, even Bernie Sanders is against open borders. He points out that there are a lot of people on the left
Yeah.
that recognize that importing the entire world suppresses our wages. It creates class dynamics that cause warfare and cause instability
And it's
and
destroying our
imbalance.
culture
Yes.
too.
And it imbalances the power dynamics between the owner class and the employee class. And even if I understand there are people that take issue with, like you said, some of the cultural issues. But even if you were just a liberal coming to this, and I understand you get upset when you see that what's going on, maybe at the border. Maybe you get upset when you hear the stories of the refugees. And hey, I think us conservatives are finally in a place where we're like, hey, we don't want Dick Cheney in our party. We don't want this Donald Rumsfeld version of reality. We don't want to be going into countries and destabilizing leaders so that those people are so screwed up in the next 20 years, their whole entire lives are upended, that they're trying to flee their countries to come to our country they're destabilizing the world. Why is Victoria Nuland in charge of all the oligarchs in Ukraine and running the country? Why is she not at The Hague? Why is she not being prosecuted for crimes against humanity? I mean, this is just absolutely out of control. I'm a little bit fired up, but I do want to just say, sorry, we got to rein it in. Colin's like, Karen's getting a little bit upset here, but
Well,
I just want to say real quick,
go ahead.
I want everybody to remember this. There are two things. Third world future. To elect these Democrats, I don't care. I don't care if Trump's on the ballot. I don't care who's on that ballot when it comes to November. To elect those people, to elect more of this elite establishment, go with the flow, uniparty system, you are going to have a third world future. And what's the third world future? You're going to be living in a third world country, and we're going to be in a third world war. Get ready for your sons and daughters to be heading to Ukraine, heading to Iran, and be living next to all calamity. I just had to say that. Third world future, people. Third world war, third world
Well,
country.
that's kind of my main issue in this election, honestly. Like, really, probably my two main issues are World War III and immigration, because I really honestly do have a legitimate concern about them reinstating the draft. And I'm just like picturing myself like dying on a battlefield, like freezing to death in Moscow. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I think I wanted to ask a question of you, Karen, and perhaps this is another podcast for another day, but I'm going to throw this out there anyway because it's on my mind. Do you believe that it is inherently racist for a country to be an ethno state? Because it seems like the only country that gets called racist if they say they want it to be an ethno state is America. Like, Israel gets to be an ethno state. Japan, China, like, doesn't it make sense that, like, for example, in China, it should be primarily Chinese that are living there, and in Japan, it should be primarily Japanese people, and in Israel, it's primarily Jewish people. Now, who landed on the Mayflower at Plymouth Rock? What were the people that landed on the Mayflower at Plymouth Rock?
They were, yeah,
Are they
Dutch,
primarily?
right?
Tell
Yeah,
me.
like, well, European, right?
Yeah, yeah, white Christian European. Why is it such a hateful, racist thing to say? Guess what? The United States of America, in my opinion, should be a primarily white Christian European country with some diversity. Diversity. You could have some diversity. For example, I believe in Russia, if I'm not mistaken, I think they have a 20% Muslim population, but primarily It's, Orthodox Russians that live there. It's an ethno state. Why is it bad to have an ethno state? Is it? I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's racist to want that. Again, you can still have some diversity, but I think that it's important to keep your country primarily uh, eth- ethnically. Oh, this is gonna sound. See, any way I word this is going to be framed
Homogenous,
in a
yeah.
racist way. I think it should be ethnically pure. You should keep your country ethnically pure with allowances for some pockets of diversity. That's just my overarching thought. And honestly, I think that Trump is a little too weak on immigration for my taste nowadays, because this whole concept of stapling green cards to diploma, well, who's to say that like China can't just send like hundreds of people here, to like, and they're talking about doing this for 2-year universities at community colleges, like stapling grade. No, I think that we need a temporary moratorium on all immigration, because our native born Americans, like the people whose families have been here for generations, this is the only land that they've ever known, the native born Americans. I'm sorry, I think that we need to take care of them first before we consider letting anyone in, because I'm sorry, even legal immigration has its pitfalls, because we want to preserve some semblance of American culture here. And I'm sorry, even legal immigration can screw with the culture. So I probably just got us banned on YouTube. I'm sorry, but I just had to express that thought. And I'm sorry. I don't think that's like a racist thought. I think it's just like
No,
common
I
sense.
understand. Yeah, I do want to just point out that the ethnically diverse countries, they are the countries that are more likely to be actually replicating the population. Like they're actually replacing their population. It's the ethnically homogenous states that are actually losing out on population. You see Japan, you see Russia, you see
Hmm.
if you actually look to a lot of those countries, except for really, I guess Israel, you could say because of the Orthodox community, but it actually diversity in some ways does help stir population growth. So I don't, but I understand what you're saying. Like, why is it okay? Why is it acceptable for Japan to say we want to keep this nation Japanese? But I
Right.
do have to say that at some point in time, like it can also, it's actually interesting that if you look at the macro data, it's kind of the more diverse populations that are actually gaining in population or at least replacing their population. Whereas the ones that are more likely to be an ethno state, besides Israel, the Orthodox communities,
Hmm.
they are actually like losing from what from what I've like listened, like from what I've read, that is like France, France, America, and I'm trying to think if there was another nation, but a lot of the other countries, like I said, Japan, some of the European countries, they're actually struggling to replace their population. And in some ways we want our survival, right? But but yeah, I do understand what you're saying. I think it's like why is it I think it's also funny that like you have like a Jewish person or a Chinese person, and there's always like this joke that like you need to marry somebody that's that. And my grandmother is 95 years old, and she told me she used to get in trouble if she walked home with an Italian boy instead of an Irish boy, like it
Right.
was like that strict back then.
I'm
um
starting to understand that mindset a little bit. It's
yeah,
like, yeah, because you
yeah.
do want certain cultures to obviously continue. Like you want Irish people and Italians to be,
Yeah, yeah.
you
Like,
know,
and if you, yeah, yeah, I understand. It's like why to me, it's like
procreated
why.
with each other.
Yeah, I feel like it's like only, it's like European culture is completely dismissed. It's like you, and especially like with like I don't want to say elite liberals, but like liberals, like white, basically white liberals, like white liberals will like gentrify like poor people, like poverty Indian food, and they're like, this is culture, you're not cultured. And it's like, but like you go to a Ukrainian festival out here and have some pierogies, vareniki, in McAdoo in the coal region here in Pennsylvania. It's like, well, that's white coal. That's not culture. They don't have any culture. It's like, you know what? Come out to Shenandoah, Pennsylvania. There's a lot of culture. There's a lot of culture happening.
Chendo.
Okay. Chendo. Yeah. Like, no, like the Polish, like, just because it's white doesn't mean that there's no, that it needs to be dismissed, like that they don't have any culture or traditions that should be respected and time honored. But I do understand what you're saying. I think that like you said, like I was like I said about like, oh, the Jewish mother trope, like you got to marry, like
Right.
that's like the ha, we all laugh about that. But if a white person said that, it would be
Well,
like, I can't believe that she said that, she's such a
yeah.
racist. And
Why
it's
is
like,
that
wait,
inherently
what? Like,
racist if for
and I'm
like
sure
white
if you, yeah,
Europeans?
I'm sure if you talk to Black communities and Hispanic communities, like they're probably very similar, because it's like, no,
Yeah.
you want your grandchildren to kind of like carry on some of the traditions that you had, and I don't think that necessarily you should rule out finding somebody from a different culture, but I also
If it
think
happens,
there
it
are,
happens.
yeah, but it's
I don't
also,
think there's
I
anything
think,
wrong
yeah,
with it
but I
at
do
all.
think that
I
there's also challenges to it. So I understand what you're saying. It's just like, why is there this double standard? Like, why is there? I think the
exactly.
culture thing really like upsets me, that there's like no culture. Like, okay, like we Irish are sorry that we brought you whiskey and fun. Okay, like sorry that we did that. Okay, like we brought you, and that, why are you invading the nation of Ireland? Like, why do you have to stamp it out? But
Well, when
here's the
President
thing.
McGregor's in charge,
Yes,
we
yeah.
he is going to fix a lot of problems in
Well,
2025.
it's the elite's collusion for the derision and the destruction of nation states, that people will feel a national identity. They want us to have a global identity. It is, and that's the difference. I think that over time, we were always going to see a change and a force and an evolution in people groups. I mean, like look at like for us, for example, like we joke around like we're Irish, but like realistically, I'm Irish, I'm Italian, I'm German, I'm Scottish. Like I'm not one thing necessarily. I'm no longer just Irish. And
Right.
I
I'm
feel like,
Slovak,
yeah,
I'm Polish, I'm
yeah.
Irish, I'm
And
English, German.
exactly. And we see that these wars, these famines, they create, there's always going to be pressure on people to move and to change course. And so I think at some point in time, we are always going to see a change, and kind of like, you understand what I'm saying? Like maybe some of the countries, like let's just say Japan, like maybe Japan was going to naturally fade out as a people, which is very sad. It's a very amazing culture.
I
I
don't
went
think
to
they
Japan.
should. They need to
No,
start
yeah.
procreating
Yes, they do need to start. But I
ASAP.
also, what I'm saying is like, maybe let's just take like I don't want to upset like any like people group. So I don't even want to like
I've
label
already
any.
given us a
I'm just,
strike. We're gonna
let's
get a
just say
strike on
Germans.
this
Let's just
episode.
say Germans, because Germans are, I'm part German. Like
Yeah,
let's,
you can kick around
yeah,
Germans, I
Germans,
feel,
yeah,
based
yeah.
upon like
But I'm saying,
history.
imagine the Germans as a people just like stopped populating, and they just like slowly in 500 years, 1,000 years, there was no Germany. There was no Germany, right? I think that that is just a natural progression that was going to take place by the forces of just human, um, just wars, famine, population, economics. But what I believe we are experiencing right now is a concerted effort to reshape nations, especially Western nations, so that we no longer feel, so we are no, not even we no longer feel, but like the native population feels no sense of control. And we import the whole world that has no loyalty. I mean, I'll tell you right now, I got to say this because it's important for people to hear. I know somebody in the military. I don't want to say who, but they're in the military, and they tell me it's like, it's literally like the Hessians. Okay. We have people from the Philippines. We have people from all different countries serving in the military. And they say they don't want to fight for America. They said they're just here for the paycheck, and they're heading back to their country. They don't care. They're not loyal to the
And why
United
would you
States.
want them in the
Yes.
military? Why would
Yes.
you want
And
them
I'm
in our
saying,
military?
why do we want them in our country? at all, period. Not just in the military, but we have to understand that there is no, they have eroded patriotism. They have eroded our sense of national identity. And so not only do we have people serving in the military that feel that way, but we have people all over this country that have been brought in and they have no sense of American identity. Now, on the flip side, I have an uncle who came here. He loves America. He's from Costa Rica. And I believe he would fight for this country. You know what I mean? Like, I believe that he fiercely believes in this country, believes in America, believes in its ideals, believes in, seeking prosperity, the pursuit of happiness, respecting God. And like I said, I feel like he has taken on that mantle. And there's so many immigrants come to America. They believe in America. But we have to understand that so many of these people are also pretty much being shipped here intentionally by open borders networks, by billionaire interests to reshape this country. I mean, George Soros, in a 60 Minutes interview in the early 1990s, explained that the greatest challenge to world peace was the United States. It was the greatest obstacle to world peace. He does not want there to be a United States, and he is not alone. And we need to start understanding that we are not just this. This is a concerted effort. And what is on the ballot in November is the rule of nation states, that people can decide their future, that they can pick their leaders. And I know it doesn't feel that way because we basically live in a plutocracy, but that is what's on. Do you want to live in a globalized system where decisions are made for you in Oklahoma and in Brussels? Like, do you want that to be it? Or do you want to make decisions in Oklahoma for Oklahoma and have actually a say? And hey, like Alex Jones says all the time, maybe we don't deserve freedom, maybe we don't. And how the heck are we supposed to have universal health care in an open border society? We can't have, I mean, go watch those videos, people. Like, challenge yourself to go watch the videos out of Springfield, Ohio, and listen to the people explaining that some of the migrants there have cards that they call magic money cards because the money never runs out. The woman explained that they would put $500 worth of groceries on, and it was still had $5,000 worth of groceries. Do
How do
you
I
have
get one of these?
$5,000? Yeah, I know, right? I'm like, where do
I
we
would
find one of
like one
these
of
cards?
these.
And like I said, they definitely spoke to some Haitians, that, like, some of the migrants that were working. And we have to understand, especially as conservatives, especially as this disgusting rhetoric starts, to resist xenophobia, and to understand that these people are pawns just like we are. They are not here to ruin your lives. They're not, I mean, maybe some of them are here to eat your cats, but like I'm saying,
I think the majority of them are here to eat your cats, honestly.
but
But
no,
that's
I
just
mean, like, but seriously, like, they're not there. We are all just pawns in the system. Like, we are all just pawns here, and they are pawns. You are a pawn. They don't fight, like, to attack or to harm or to have any hate in your heart for those people is completely misplaced,
oh,
and
obviously no
it's
violence.
unhealthy.
Yeah,
Yes,
nobody
and
should
it's
be doing any sort of
not just
violence.
violence, but it's like you should not feel any hate towards those people. But I do think we see of cause for righteous anger against these profiteers, these war profiteers, these government profiteers, these people like the Koch brothers, like so many different people that are working towards this disablement of our country. And
Why do you think Dick Cheney endorsed Kamala Harris? Like, what do you think was behind? Like, obviously, because she
yeah,
is going to be
because
a useful puppet of
because
the
decency is on the ballot. Because
right. Yep.
yeah, because Montel Williams' ex-girlfriend is that, yeah,
Exactly.
like, what, like, come on, people, like, this is just, like I said, it's hard because I think I said last week, I'm like, oh, Trump, it's like he just drives me crazy so much. I feel like a lot of people said that after, like, some of the stuff with the debate, like he took the bait too much with his ego.
Did you see the
But
Taylor
unfortunately,
Swift
yeah.
tweet?
Oh yeah, he hates Taylor
I
Swift.
hate
Hates
Taylor
Taylor
Swift in all cap. Do you? I mean, I honestly don't think it matters one way or another at this point. Like, I saw somebody say he should have said, "I love Taylor Swift," and I agree with that.
Yeah.
That's how he should have played it. I love Taylor Swift, you know, because
Yeah.
she obviously came out and endorsed Kamala. But just to kind of wrap up this philosophical
Sorry.
discussion on immigration, in all seriousness, I do believe personally we do need a moratorium on all immigration for at least 10 years, with one exception. Here's the exception I would have. We would allow young women from Scandinavian countries, like from Norway, Finland, Denmark. We would allow them in because I feel like they could be a net positive, really. Send most of them to Florida. That would be my one exception for immigration. But no, in all seriousness, we really do need a break. There's too many people in this country, number one. Like it's just like enough. We have to take care of our native born Americans. There shouldn't be anybody ODing on fentanyl on
Yeah.
Kensington Street. There shouldn't be homeless veterans. We have to fix the problems that are plaguing the native born Americans whose families
Yeah.
have been here for generations. This is the only land they know. We have to throw them a bone first
You know what
before
it
we
feel
allow anybody else in.
it feels like, so I went to college at the University of Alabama, and then I went to Temple University in Philadelphia. And I remember being on campus and I would see the students coming by, the prospective students going on a campus tour. And I remember some of the just all the money that was spent on trying to get the students to come and choose that university. And so much of that money was being spent on these prospective students and so much of time and attention on gaining these new students. So much of the resources was funneled towards that. And I always remember feeling as a student, like I would sit there, I'm like a junior, and I'm like, they don't care about us, so,
Because they got you
as
already.
Kendrick,
They
they already
got
got me. They already got, well, and it really wasn't even the students. It was the professors. I did a story at the time. I worked in public radio, and I did a story about the professors, the adjunct professors at Temple University in Philadelphia were trying to unionize. So Temple University, being the liberal do-gooders that they are, were so in favor of unions and labor rights. But as soon as their adjunct professors were trying to become a union, they were squashing that. They're like, oh, no, 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 no,
ah,
not here. We're not going to pay you a fair wage here. Let me explain to people what it is like. We have a lead over production. We would have university professors. These people, I don't know what it is. This was in 2010. They would be working at 3 different universities at a time, scrimping together about like $25,000 a year. There was no tenure track because none of the boomers were going to retire. And the universities were basically using these professors as like wage slaves. And they were telling me that like it was actually better to not have your PhD because you made more money as a graduate student than you did after you actually attained your PhD. I talked to a professor who was educated at Brown. I mean, like Ivy League scholar, and still could not get a full-time professorship job, not a tenure job, a professor job. He was just streaking together different adjunct jobs in order to get a university job. So who's getting all the money? The administration's getting all the money. They have like 1,500 administrators. And then all the money is being spent on these new university students. And it's pretty much the same thing that's happening in America. All the money is being spent on the migrants, and all the money is being spent at the top. Like that's pretty much where all of the resources are going towards. And the us students and professors in between that are actually doing the living and the dying and the creating in this country are completely left with just like the morsels that are left over at the end of the day in the university budget. So that is how the American system is working at this point. And like you said, I mean, it's not to necessarily say that we don't want any immigration in the future or immigration in the slightest. I'm not, I
none
don't
for
want to take it.
now.
Yes, I'm
None
just
for
not
now.
taking a hardline stance because it's not like I've sat down and like studied this intimately. So I
Well,
don't
I
want
have, Karen. You can
to.
trust me. I've done all the. I've crunched the
You're like,
numbers
well, you
here.
were driving on the turnpike. I crunched the numbers. I just did a whole Excel sheet and I've
You know what a
decided.
math whiz I am,
Yeah.
so you can trust me.
But I just wanted to, but like you said, it's the American people are falling behind. Like the American people do not feel, like you said, supported. They are dying of fentanyl. They are being, like you said, left behind. I mean, that's, I know we're not super big fans of JD Vance, but like that was a big part of his book, Hillbilly Elegy. He was kind of saying like to the white like the white population from the Rust Belt and the coal
I hate
regions
you.
and no,
That's what he
no,
was
that is
saying.
not what he's saying. He was saying that you need to not give up. Like you need to believe, and you need to believe that you can in this country. But unfortunately, a lot of the messaging that has taken place has made people disillusioned. It's demoralized them, and we do need to stop. We need. I mean, when you go watch that video from Springfield, Ohio, one of the biggest takeaways I had was just so many of the people just look so downtrodden. Honestly, it just looked like the community I live in, where the native population is just, I know you're laughing because you know where I live.
I'm sorry because I lived
You've
there too,
lived it.
pretty
Yeah,
much.
you've lived it.
I know that's why I'm
But
laughing.
they are so broken. They are,
Yes, they
everybody
are.
knows, yeah, everybody knows someone who's overdosed. They've lost any sense
Yeah,
of morality. They've lost a sense of community and
yeah.
family.
I mean, we have mutual
And
people that we knew and
yes,
worked with who have been
yeah,
subject to this
yes, yeah. And
and are deceased now.
exactly. And so much of that, like back in the 70s, back in the 80s, they made fun of, in the 90s when I was growing up, they made fun of conservatives for explaining the need for family units, for morality, for Christianity, for God, respect of
And like,
God,
what a thing to make
respect of
fun of too.
country.
Like,
Yeah, yeah,
promoting the nuclear family. Like, why
yeah.
would what a that's why this is like such a spiritual
What's
battle
what's
too. It's so
really
devious.
what's really devious is that you see in the white populations that they're in, if the elite liberals in the universities will celebrate family in Hispanic cultures, but when you turn it on and you talk about white, it's like something's wrong with you. Like what do you mean we're going to celebrate family?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
sounds
If you're
like some kind of,
Polish, then
yeah, yeah,
screw
no,
you,
yeah.
racist white supremacist.
And like you said, it's a conservative. My message is to all of the migrants, like, listen, they did it to us, they'll do it to you. Like, watch out. Like, not watch, but like understand, like, we're all pawns. Like, don't like get
Here's my
upset. Yeah.
message. You remember we
Go
both
home.
loved we we both loved Terminator 2, Judgment Day. Remember when the T-1000 went into the helicopter? What did he say to the guy in the helicopter? Get out. That's my message to the migrants. I'm
You know,
sorry.
it's not that simple. It's not that
Get
simple. It's
out.
not at all. But yeah, I just we hope that President Trump can make it to, I think he needs to be running his campaign from the basement. Like he needs to get in the
Honestly, I
basement.
was thinking about this before we went on. Is there really like at this point, okay, it's September 15th, right? Is it gonna make like a lick of a difference at this point if he's like flying to Wisconsin and Michigan to have these like just if I stay put, don't go anywhere, don't look at anyone, don't touch anybody, and try not to do anything. Just
Yeah.
stay where you are for the love of God. It doesn't matter. These rallies don't matter at this point. Like everybody's decided at this point what they're doing in this little election on November 5th. So just like
Just go
enough with
talk
the
to Lex
rally.
Friedman or something.
Yeah, have them come to you actually. It's like I'll still do podcasts, but you have to fly here to Mar-a-Lago. Like
In my
have
bunker. Yeah, you have to be, yeah, like stripped down by
do you
dogs
do
and
you think
yeah.
he's do you think he's going to do Joe Rogan before November 5th? I have a I think he's
I
going
think
to.
so too. I think so too. I actually I'm glad you asked that because I think I said that to my husband the other day. I'm like, I think Joe Rogan's going to change his mind.
I
I
think
think
Joe's
he's
saving it for like the week before the actual election.
I think I do feel like he might just, I know he said in the past that he didn't want to have him on, and I understand. I respect that. I get it. I wouldn't want to
He's
endorse
had Bernie
somebody or
Sanders on, though.
yeah.
He's had like other political figures on.
I
So
think he was underestimating his reach in the past. I think that's why he was not afraid to in the past. And I think he understood they were kind of like fringe candidates. I think that Trump is a tour de force and he feels like, okay, this person's so amplified in their own right. Like, why would I need to amplify them? But I feel like Joe, I don't know. I don't know him personally, but I did think that to myself recently that I think Joe Rogan might be like, you know what? I don't want to live in a country where Kamala's taking my money and my guns and my freedoms, you know?
and
And
could
it's
you
like,
imagine if he
yeah.
passes Trump a blunt, like on the like he did with Elon Musk? That would seal the
That should
election for
be
Trump.
every debate. Like every debate should just be like you said, like a Joe Rogan. They should just have a Joe Rogan podcast. Like you have to do a
Seriously.
3 hour
Yeah,
podcast, and
you have
that's
to do an
not
unscripted,
together, but just
unfiltered,
one and then another one. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no,
yeah,
it's
live
probably
streamed,
much. Yeah,
uncensored,
no Tim
unedited.
Walls. You can't have Timmy
Nope,
with you. That's not
nope, nope, no
acceptable. One
Timmy.
on one. You can't have any earrings in. None of that.
Yeah, did you see those fancy earrings she was wearing?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
microphone ear, the headphone earrings, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, I'm not really I don't really know if
There
I
was an
feel like
uncanny
that's yeah,
resemblance.
yeah. And I am of the thought that like with the questions, everybody said that she got the questions, but pretty much she knew what the questions would be. So
Yeah, I mean,
it's kind of
yeah,
like
she did get the
chicken or
questions,
the
but
egg. Like if she got the questions, like they know what they're gonna ask. Like they pretty much can figure out we can figure out what question. That's what these debate prepare, like that's what the debate
yeah.
coaching has always been. They
It's
know
like
what they're gonna
abortion,
ask.
January 6th,
Yeah.
abortion, January 6th, Ukraine.
Hmm.
It pretty much the script writes itself,
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. But like I said, I mean, maybe it's time for Trump. You know, he's not. You know, he's going to be like golfing more. He's going to be like out and
Oh, yeah,
about
he'll probably be out.
more.
He'll be doing more rallies now. He's gonna be flying. And that's the next thing I'm worried about. That is the thing I've been worried about this
Flying.
entire time is him in that jet flying all over the creation. Like, what's to stop the
It's a
system
vulnerability.
from
It's a
being like,
vulnerability.
oh my God, there was an accident. Air traffic control was asleep at the wheel. We didn't know that this other plane was in the direct flight. They can say whatever they want.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's to stop them from doing that?
My boss actually had a dream early on this year about Trump in a plane incident. Yeah. Like not good. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
told you
And
my dream that I had years. This might have been 2 years ago, where I feel like Trump in the dream, from what I remember, he was standing at the top of the stairs, and then when he turned around to enter the plane, his
not
back was on
fine.
fire.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
woke up and it was like really visceral and disturbing. And that
Yeah.
stuck with me. I still think about that dream.
I would not be surprised if the ante increases and I could see maybe some kind of explosives. Like not maybe not even just the plane, but I definitely think that I would not be surprised. I mean, like you said, there's not many weeks, but there's enough weeks, right? We've had there,
It's an
I mean,
eternity.
in July 13th, we thought, oh, there's not too much time before the election, but it seems
Oh,
like maybe we need to have shorter elections in the United States. Like maybe they shouldn't be so long when there's all this chaos. But uh like you said, I think that it's I guess a lot of prayers are being offered up for Trump. Uh Tim Walls, I know Tim Walls and his wife were sure to share that sentiment on X. They're so concerned. But yeah,
did they?
so
I didn't see that.
he said something like my wife and I are so glad. But somebody I did see Donald Trump Jr. posted a tweet from some liberal, who the heck knows, some liberal do-gooder was like he wasn't even shot. No, his ear is fine. You can go on with the rest of your Sunday afternoon. And he
Oh,
was
I
just
saw
like
I
these
saw
people are
that.
sick. Yeah.
And it's like, if these people if that if
With
these people
Kamala.
had if these people had I'm talking about these liberal do-gooders, if they got their ears grazed, I don't think they'd be standing up right after pumping their fist in the air. They'd be on the ground like crying,
Oh
like terror,
yeah.
as would
Yeah.
I, by the way,
Yeah.
as would I if I got my ear grazed.
We
So
would have to hear about it like all the time. Like how funny, just want to point out real quick, like the debate, like Trump, like I think tried to like maybe talk about the assassination and they like changed the subject.
yeah.
I think, and like but we had to hear about January 6th again, like for so like 100 times. And it's like,
Oh my
okay, like,
God.
yeah, we have to hear about everything in January 6th. It's like, well, this guy almost was shot. Like, okay, can we talk about that too? Like, that's kind
I
of
still think January 6th was hilarious, by the way. I think it was one of the funniest days in the history of this country. I remember watching the live stream. Shit, that's my opinion.
yeah, I kind of was ignoring it, and then all of a sudden I actually saw the footage and I was pretty shocked. I thought it was like, oh, no big deal, the world's coming to an end, and then I had only heard about it, and then when I actually saw the images I thought, oh god, like things are really getting bad. So I think that that's a wrap. I mean, this was ended up being a little bit longer of a show than I anticipate on the
We knew that was going to
CNBC.
happen, though.
We
Let's be
knew, we
honest.
know. We just need to get going here. But
Do you
I
want to
know
do a
not
horoscope?
exactly. I, I guess we have to. I don't remember
Let's
what
do a
last
horoscope.
week's was. I don't think that it said you need to watch for your
Wasn't
health.
wasn't Trump's horoscope something crazy last
It
week
was
when we did
pretty
it?
good, and Kamala's was like really boring. Okay,
We
so
have to do it. Like I don't feel like we can close out the podcast without doing it.
okay, so Gemini, Donald Trump for today, September 15th, 2024. You've been under a lot of pressure of late, and something clearly has to give. What that something is will become apparent over the next few days. And when it finally does blow, the tension will deflate like a balloon that has been popped.
Hmm. Well, we have the sentencing coming up later this week,
Mm,
so we'll see what happens there.
yeah. So, and then, yes, and I apologize for being such a serious episode. I really, folks, I
We got pretty
tried.
heavy into
I
immigration
tried.
and eating cats. And hey, by the way, real quick, remember there was this Chinese restaurant in Lansford. It was called the Bobo Garden. Do you remember?
I don't know if I do, but I mean, they all
the
kind of seem the
rumor
same.
the rumor was always that the cats would go missing from the neighborhood and they would end up in like the poo poo platter at the Bobo Garden. So I just wanted to mention that.
I feel like that was like kind of like like that was for a lot of Chinese
Yeah,
places, right? So that
yeah,
was kind
yeah.
of okay. So, and my mom used to always say, she goes, they're not feeding us cat. They're eating cat themselves. Who cares? She's like, if they like cat so much, why would they give it to us? If it's a delicacy, they want to eat it. They're not going to serve it to you. Does that make sense? Like, I think that
Yeah,
that,
I do think it's demonic eating a sentient creature like that.
okay.
You
All
disagree,
right.
obviously, but
I
go
just
ahead.
am like, well, you know what? Sometimes you're hungry. No, I'm kidding. So today's horoscope for Libra, Kamala Harris, according to the New York Post. Don't worry if you feel uneasy as the new week begins, because the impending eclipse, I didn't even know there was an eclipse, will
Another
put
one.
everyone on edge. Huh, that's great.
Dude, I
A
feel like there's an eclipse every month now.
I know. A few days from now, you will look back and recognize that your fears had no basis in fact. There was never anything to worry about. Hmm.
Huh. I
Hmm.
mean, is she worried? What's she worried about?
Mm.
I don't think she has much to worry about,
I don't
really.
think she has much to worry about
I still think
either.
she's the front runner, like at
Yeah.
this point, unfortunately.
Yeah. I think she's kind of the front runner. And I think yeah, like it's not like Trump doesn't really seem that upset with her about like, it's not like he's like trying to throw her in prison.
How
So
is Trump the underdog again? By the way, it's like he was the underdog in 2016. I don't know if he was the underdog in 2020, but now I feel like he's the underdog.
yeah. Yeah.
I
Even
don't
though
know.
he's almost been shot twice. Like this is just unbelievable. But
Yeah,
well,
I need some rest,
everybody,
Karen.
I know we need some rest too. I just want to tell everybody, just enjoy a little treat as we round out the show. These
Ah,
are Sweetzel's mini ginger creams. They are known for their famous ginger snaps
where are they made?
from Bluebell, Pennsylvania. Oh, great.
Hmm.
These, I guess they have some kind of horrible thing that RFK Jr. wouldn't eat because it says not for sale in California.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
Probably does that the cancer warning on it?
Oh God, some kind of soybean TBHQ. Oh God, they're so good.
Some sort of poisonous chemical.
I
Ah,
mean, do I
well,
really want to continue to exist on this planet? So,
not really.
like, if I can't have my ginger snap creams, no
What's
reason
the
to go
point?
on. Exactly. So,
Well,
well, folks, have a good week, right?
yeah, I guess that's a wrap, huh, Karen? Like you said, a bit of a more serious episode this week, but this was a breaking news episode. I'm sure it won't be the last. We'll probably be here
Mhm.
like tomorrow night with like another breaking news episode, God knows. But hey, listen, everybody, give us a follow on YouTube. Give this video a like if you enjoy the our musings, our ramblings. Follow us on X, follow us on Rumble, subscribe to us on there. And we'll be back right here once again next week for another edition of the Re Education Camp podcast. We'll see you then.